Very excited to have my next guest back on the show. Her debut album is out right now. It's called And You, Who Drowned in the Grief of a Golden Thing. King Mala.
Hello! You nailed the title.
I gotta say, I've practiced, I rehearsed,
you might have.
and I'm saying it in a scolding manner so that I can remember it.
As you should. Literally, I was like, I don't know. It's a lot of words.
It's so many words.
It's like going off script. No notes. Incredible, incredible.
First of all, so great to see you again.
Great to see you.
You are now accompanied by a little one that you birthed.
My baby. Yes, my queen.
Who is this that we have here?
This is Pepper. She's my new dog.
Little Pep.
She's a mythical beast, an ancient creature.
I think I've seen Pepper in some music videos.
Yeah, honestly, she's been in a lot of TikToks. Simply because she's like, hello, I would like to join. But I really want to do a shoot with her. We shot all of the album content before I got her. And now I'm like, damn, we should have waited. She could have been in all of that.
Still time.
There's still time, honestly.
Still
I'm like,
time.
Deluxe? Question mark?
I like how you beat me to the punch because usually I have my dog.
Yes, I know.
We were just chatting about how Sofia Valdez was here. My dog would not leave the sofa.
Oh my God, I cannot tell you how obsessed I am with that video of him like dead asleep on her lap.
Yes.
Oh my God, I'm obsessed.
It's been a minute since we've spoken, seen each other.
I know, I was looking.
You've gotten taller.
I have gotten taller.
We can't tell as we're sitting on camera here, but I obviously need to note the change in appearance and
oh my God, I was looking at our last interview
and
I was
watched
like,
it.
oh my God, I look so different.
Yes.
I was like bleach blonde, honey catching season era. I was on tour with Upsall. And for this album, I was like, I want to do something very horror inspired. And I'm a big fan of a big look change for a new project. I feel like it signals a new era. And so for this one, I was like, I want to be very alien-esque and very,
alien-esque that Pepper's like, I am out of here.
No period. Very alien-esque, and then I also very inspired by like classic horror, like to the waist, like dark hair, very Grudge, very The Ring. And so that was sort of the thinking, but I love a look change. I love a new era.
She's like, all right, I've heard this story before.
Literally, she's like, girl.
Clearly, as people change and get inspired, especially as an artist, you want to evolve and have everything change, not just the music, not just the lyrics and all those things. So the videos, let's be frank here, are a little creepy.
They are creepy.
And you talked about horror inspired and all these things. The key word you just said was obsession.
Yes.
Obsessive.
Yes.
And that's one of the key elements of the music on this album and themes, right?
Absolutely.
Obsession versus desire. And then if you look at the titles of each one of these songs, there's a religious undertone to it all as well.
Totally.
When did you know that this is actually the direction?
Yeah, I knew I wanted this project to be darker in tone. I explored like sort of a lighter sound in my last project, more like indie R&B influenced, because that is definitely one of my influences and one of my loves. And I think for this one, I was like, it feels truest to myself and truest to like the thing I want to interrogate with this project to go with a darker theme. And I realized recently, like, I just feel so empowered by like the genre of horror, and it feels like this sort of like societal like arrow is starting to point in that direction. Like movies are becoming more horror centric, and I feel like there's a lot of really interesting like art being made about like womanhood that is very horror centric. And so I knew it would be like an interesting vehicle to tell the story I wanted to tell.
I just mentioned how the videos are, the ones that I've seen at least, are a little creepy, and the snippets you've shared on socials and all that. What about that visual inspiration in terms of horror? And I can imagine it's everything from Interview with a Vampire to, I don't know, Twilight. You tell me.
Yeah, I think there was a lot of like, there's references to The Exorcist and Blair Witch Project, and there's like, our video for Fun is very like found footage inspired. And then our video for Devotion was very much like sort of inspired by like the hypersexualized like women of horror, like the sort of like Pearl, Maxine of it all. Like there's always this one character, especially in like older horror like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, there's like this one hypersexualized woman who immediately gets murdered because she like has her out and she's a bimbo. And we wanted to take that and sort of flip it on its head and be like, well, let's make it like gross and weird and like awesome and sort of empower this character instead of having her be a victim, like have her be sort of the survivor. And also a nod to like the final girl genre, which is one of my favorites. But yeah, there's a lot of nods to a lot of movies, including my favorite in the world, which is The Witch by Robert Eggers. So there's like a lot of sort of moments that are more like slow, like zoom out pulls, like beautiful, you know, beautifully composed scenes. And then there's, you know, fun, which is super fast paced, found footage. Like there's no sort of like building out composed scenes.
Yeah, it's just
more
coming,
just like we're going. It's escalating and escalating and escalating. And then there's also like more cheeky stuff because horror is often like really funny. It has the same like comedic timing as a comedy film, like the same beats. So it's sort of like playing with sort of like people's expectations and subverting them in the same way. I think that's why someone like Jordan Peele is so good at creating horror, is because he understands the beats that it takes to like surprise people.
It's not just horror, it's also the thriller suspense aspect of it all too, right? Why this title that I need to yell and really emphasize again, like, and you who drowned in the grief of a golden thing. Why is it a golden thing? Why isn't it more specific, like a crown or a knife or scepter?
Yes, so for this, like, the whole point of this, and this comes from like a title poem, so it was like originally a poem that described sort of the entire plot of the record and sort of like what led us to the beginning of the story, like what our characters' motives are. And I think the whole point of this record is your desire for power is like very aimless. Like you don't know what it looks like, you don't know what it feels like or what it sounds like, but you know it's out there. You know you want this like massive sort of version of yourself, this like greatness, but you have no shape for it, you have no name for it, but you're willing to give everything for something you don't even understand. So that's why it's not a crown, it's not a like house in the hills, it's not anything in particular, it's this sort of feeling, it's this like sort of describable greatness.
But that's what you desire, so why are we drowning in the grief?
Because it's unachievable, it's not real, it's not like reality. This perfect, great version of yourself doesn't actually exist. Like you're a nuanced human being that has like mushy desires and falls in love and wants comfort and desires to be like happy and healthy and all of these things. That queen. And so I think this whole story is about the grief of losing that version of yourself as you get older and as you sort of progress with yourself as a human being. Like eventually you come to a spot where like you don't have access to that greatness, or you realize it never really existed in the first place and you're sort of just going to be who you are, whether you're in a mansion or an apartment. And also at the beginning of this process, my producer and I talked about sort of the difference between human emotion and God emotions, and like why I wanted to return to this sort of like cult leader-esque feeling, but it had always felt wrong when I tried again. And it was because I was coming at it from the angle of like anger and retaliation, which is a very like petty emotion. But when we're talking about gods, there's an assuredness, like a calmness that comes with their emotions. And we discussed grief as a God emotion. Like grief is massive and it feels like ancient, and it's sort of this like, it's this feeling that you can never escape. It's like omniscient. It exists above and within you all the time, versus anger is like reactive. It's here and then it's gone, or it's gone and then it's here. Grief is ever present. Same with like, I don't know, like confidence or dread or woe. It's sort of like there's like this ever-presentness to the God emotions that we call them. And so grief was one of our focuses for this project.
That's so fascinating that that is positioned in that way. Mm-hmm. Did you do a lot of reading into God and religion and things like that?
Yeah. I mean, I grew up with my sort of life very intertwined with religion. My family is not religious. Like I was raised Catholic, but in a very like loose sort of familial term of like we go to church to make grandma happy and on Christmas, and like that was sort of the vibe. But I was homeschooled, and the homeschool community is like incredibly Christian, especially in Texas where I'm from. And so I was inundated with a lot of like Christianity throughout my adolescence, especially because all of my friends were very Christian, and if I wanted to see them, I had to go to youth group and I had to be like sort of involved in their churches, and it gave me a lot of insight into like what it means to be like a follower of Christ. And there's all of this sort of discussion of like giving your life, and I found that very interesting, especially in the context of our story, because our main character like is willing to give her life for this desire, and in a lot of ways it feels very similar to like the sort of devotion that you have to God or to your relationship with your religion. I also just find religious vocabulary very beautiful. Like I love the way I love the way Bible verses sound and run and feel. It's all very poetic, and the metaphor is so beautiful. And I think interlacing sort of religious metaphor was always something I was going to be interested in.
Yeah.
But it's also very relevant to where I grew up and sort of how I feel about everything.
Yeah, go back to the song titles.
Yeah, exactly.
You have a song called God.
I sure do.
And devotion.
Yes.
And again, the religious undertones is very omnipresent, that ties in and intertwines with what are you willing to give up, and
exactly.
To achieve whatever this mythical thing that you think is going to make you happy.
Yes.
Ultimately, right?
Yes, exactly. And who are you going to be when you realize you'll never have it? Like, who are you after? That's sort of where our story like ends.
How therapeutic was this? Because I can feel this is very, at some point, right? It must have felt autobiographical. You were singing this in the mirror to yourself.
Yeah, it was very like, it started as like, oh, it's a metaphor, it's a story, it's characters, which it very much is, but it is so relevant to my life, and it is so personal. And there's some songs that are more personal than others, but they're all like exploring things through the characters and through the metaphor. They're exploring things that like I want to explore as a person. And listening to it now, like a year after making it, it's more relevant now to my life than it was when I made it. It was almost like my subconscious was writing things that it was like, this is gonna hit later, girl. Like you just wait.
Why now?
I think now there's like, I'm going through like a big sort of like a couple like big changes in my life. And I think at the time when I started this record, I was very much interrogating like what it means to give up who I wanted to be in order to be happy. And now coming out the other side of that situation, I'm like, oh, I lost myself to like this relationship, this job, this sort of version of myself. I lost myself to the pursuit of like comfort and happiness. And weirdly, like now coming back, there's like, now I'm sort of sensing where the balance is and like who I am as a person. Like I want to sort of chase this like artistry and this like creative path, and for a moment I was like willing to lose it all for like love. And now like post that relationship, I'm like, oh, I was sort of swallowed by that desire, and I lost all sense of who I am as a person and as an individual. And I was sort of swimming in the like desire to be happy and the desire to be great, and how at odds they were with each other. And the first thing I told my producer in our first session was I felt like my humanity was getting in the way of my greatness. And at the time it was like I felt like my relationship was getting in the way of my career. And now I'm like, it was. And it's because I was losing myself to my relationship in the same way that I've lost myself to my career at times. Like there's sort of always this ever present, like I'm devoting myself to a thing that's not me. And I'm letting the outcome of something I can't really control my emotions. And so the record is like so relevant to me in that way now, is like just seeing sort of how I used these characters to work through my emotions when it came to that relationship, and sort of seeing like, oh, I was feeling so lost and sort of like I had lost myself to love, But in my brain, I was just like, my characters are interacting with each other. And now I'm like, oh, damn, girl, like you were going through it.
Yeah.
But I had no idea.
Yeah. And it reflects in your art because you're really selling yourself in your music.
Yeah, exactly. Literally.
We can go back and re-listen to some music that you've released in the last 4 or 5 years and be all like, aha.
There it was. Yeah.
She was not herself. She was swallowed up by this relationship.
Oh my God. Actually, like it's crazy to see sort of.
Was that Blonde Aurelie that we were talking to?
You know what? It was like post Blonde Aurelie, because I feel like Blonde Aurelie I was trying to get back to. That was very like honey catching season, but that was sort of like the beginning of the downfall of like that era for me, and like sort of switching into a new era. And like neither was worse or better, but I think I never want to like lose myself to anything, whether that's like the pursuit of a career or a relationship or a friendship or like, you know, the desire to be whatever it is. Like I always want to stay true to myself. And I think, I don't know, like I can hear it so much in these songs, like sort of me working through what it means to like lose yourself and like try to find yourself again, and sort of the aftermath of that. And also just the idea of falling in love with someone that you're obsessed with and that you find to be like an incredible person. Like this person I was in a relationship with, incredible human being, still love them, like such a charismatic and exciting person. And I think I was like swallowed up by like their light, which is such an because usually it's like you're with someone that is like stealing your light, right?
Right.
But it was almost the opposite. I was like just totally enamored with this person, and it's the exact same relationship that my main character has to our like entity in the album. It's very much like, you're this incredible thing, I like do anything for you. And that's how you get possessed, girl.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's so human nature though, because they always say that like when you know, and the love
you
just
get wrapped up.
Right, the love swallows you up.
Yes, exactly. And like how did I lose every part of myself that I held so dear? You know, it happens very quickly.
Was there something in particular that kind of illuminated that to you?
I don't know. It's sort of.
Was it your music? Was it your personal life of where like, what am I doing right now?
Yeah.
I should be in the studio.
Yeah, it was sort of like I had started this album and this album process, and hey Queen, you want to come sit over here? And it was when I finished writing, and we were sort of moving on to like post-production, mixing, mastering, planning the visuals, that I was like, oh, like I sort of had this moment of like, like I'm in this sort of situation that I never thought I would find myself in, and that I promised myself I would never find myself in. And I think writing the record, I was like so focused on it that I was sort of able to ignore like my personal life and sort of like work through these emotions. And when that was done, I realized like, oh my God, I need to change everything about my life, and I need to find myself again, because I was totally lost and feeling so creatively fulfilled and feeling so like personally driven, and like finally feeling like my like artistry was like back, made me want to extend that to the rest of my life. So it was almost like finishing the record sort of snapped me out of it, honestly.
That's crazy
yeah,
to hear.
Very crazy.
Usually it's about like, oh, I had this moment, now I'm gonna go write about it.
Yes, exactly. No, I think for me, I was like, a lot of times when things are like really big and really heavy, I cannot just like see them and write about them. I have to process them in a way that I don't like notice at first, and then I can like, oh, that's what I was thinking about. That's what I was feeling.
Which is interesting because I still hear confidence in the lyrics, the singing, the music, the sonics, in all of this as well. So to me, it didn't sound like you were lost at all.
Yeah, honestly, I think this project, I like found myself for the first time in a long time, and I felt so supported by my team, so fulfilled by the art we were making. And I also like made a character out of my confidence. So I was like, one of my characters is like the epitome of confidence and power and greatness and like ancient, like magical sort of energy. And so I was able to like live in her character as much as I was able to live in our human character, that very, very nuanced, very like human. But being able to create like this ultimate like God character version of myself sort of brought me to like, oh, like what does it feel like to actually be that most powerful version of myself? And that like gave me a lot of confidence. It's very fun. It's like it's like playing a character, and it sort of illuminates the things in yourself that you're missing, I think. But yeah, I think she gives me confidence. That character gives me confidence. And so it's easy to write from her perspective because I'm like, oh my God, I'm on top of the world.
Yeah. How do you move forward now, balancing being goal-driven, yet, and in all facets of life, not just career-wise, right? Because the career is only going to take you so far. It can only make you so happy, right? And how do you balance that with not worrying about... worrying about the consequences or not achieving those goals at a certain period of time, right? We live in a society where on social media, there's a lot of pressure.
Yeah. I think, honestly, like this project has taught me so much about like, I don't necessarily care about the result of what I'm doing anymore. Like, I care about how like creatively fulfilled this art makes me and how much like this project gives me like creative fulfillment and personal fulfillment. I think I'm less into like the response and the validation of my art, and I'm more into like how excited I am about my art and how like driven it makes me and how fulfilled it makes me as a person. Oh, Queen.
She was driven.
You're driven. You know what? I feel like when I'm really crushing it, she's like, yeah. Oh my God, that was quite a hop too. She's tall as hell.
Yeah.
But I think the balance for me comes in like being not necessarily trying to find happiness or trying to find, you know, power, but trying to find like peace. I think there's peace in greatness, and there's also peace in happiness, and there's peace in being fulfilled, and there's peace in, you know, for me, like taking care of this dog and my house and like taking care of my body and like giving myself like nourishment for my soul, and also, you know, like physically, like just all of the things that bring me peace, focusing on those things like has offered a lot of balance to my life. And also just not caring as much about the validation of the art and caring more about whether the art feels true and fulfilling and real and like, you know, something that I was like made to make.
And that's a tough thing to be satisfied with.
Yeah, no, definitely, definitely.
Right? Because it's always a matter of like, I'm making art for myself, but eventually you hear voices that are chirping at you, and then you're like, okay, let me go back to the drawing board and second guessing yourself, or all right, I'm gonna try to appease certain voices.
Yeah, absolutely.
And even internal voices in your head.
100%. That's honestly like the biggest struggle is like, is this me, or is this like my desire to be validated by the internet? But I do think like I learned a lot in this process of like when it feels good and it feels true, it's like a particular feeling. And so I try to chase that. And also just having like an incredible team has changed my life so much. Like having a supportive, having a supportive production team, having a supportive visual team, having people that are like not only like ready and willing to give their talent to a project, but like excited about the project itself. And like they also believe in what we're doing. So that like, I learned a lot of lessons. So I think next time I'll know what to look for the next record.
I know you said your family wasn't very religious, but grandma might have been.
Yes, you know what?
What do they think, and what does grandma think of some of the visuals and some of this creepy Aurelie that they see?
They love it. That my family is so unbelievably supportive, and my grandma is very Catholic, and ends every phone call, God bless you, mommy. But
because you have the white-out eyes, and you are stabbing or doing something to a dead body and all these things.
I know. I think
in your visuals.
In my visuals, right, and my personal life.
No, I'm just kidding. Hey.
But I do feel like my family is very much. They see me like being very true to myself, and they see me like thriving, and I think they can like you can tell when someone you love is like living their truth, and if you love them in an unconditional way, it doesn't matter what they're doing, but the fact that they're happy and being themselves and like living as their truest self is so exciting, and I know that's what they see when they look at this project, and they look at the scary visuals, and they hear the songs, and the songs are queer and weird and scary and experimental. They're like, that bitch is living her truth.
She was a creep when she was 7,
exactly.
And she's a creep
and
today.
She's a creep today, exactly. Although the bleached eyebrows, my dad was like, why did you do that? And I'm like, listen, you don't get it, but I get it.
I still remember our first meeting was their first time seeing you perform.
Yes.
In Austin.
Oh my God, it's true. Wait, that's crazy. They're seeing me on this upcoming tour as well, so
are they?
It'll be a new.
Are you going through El Paso, or are you going to make them drive 7 hours again?
So this time they only have to drive 5 to Phoenix.
5?
Yeah.
Only
not bad,
5?
Not bad. Listen, El Paso's in the middle of nowhere. But yeah, they're very excited to see the new iteration. But yeah, that was the first time they had ever seen me, and they were so proud, so excited.
No, I remember you saying this, and I actually saw them in the audience taking photos in the back and things like that. So.
And it was not just, it was my parents, my aunt and uncle, I think my grandparents were there, my cousins, like it was like everyone shows up to support, which is very nice.
So now I have to bring up the live interpretation of all this. If they're going to see this, what are we going to see?
So we're translating like a lot of the visuals that we made for the album. Like we sort of, I just did like a tour fitting with my creative director, but we're taking like pieces from the visuals and integrating them into like every moment of the set. And there's sort of like, there's a much like heavier theatrical hand in the live set now. And we're also starting from scratch. Like, if you've seen a live show before, you will not know anything about the live show that's coming. Like, it is completely fresh. We're starting from scratch. And just
following the theme of the album.
Following the theme of the album. In full, we're performing the whole album. And I don't know, I think we're trying to like translate these characters and just make it more of like an experience and less of like a show where I sing the songs. It's more of like, here you're gonna get like the full experience of these characters and this record and sort of what it means, and you're gonna get pieces of this story that you wouldn't get otherwise when you see the live show.
Will we need to wear plastic bags, a poncho because of the blood spewing?
Literally, my manager, when we like announced the tour, he was like, depending on like what the venues are okay with, could we do like a fake blood moment? Like if we hand the audience a tarp, would a fake blood moment be possible? And I was like, first of all, that's king behavior. Second of all, there's no shot. But we would. So maybe the headliners are gonna pop off with some fake blood moment.
You could tell them it's water in a water bottle, but
honestly, I mean, I've been to a blood rave. That stuff is fun. It's just like chocolate syrup.
I've never been to a blood rave. What is it like?
It's like when I went, it was in a shipping container. And just like when the beat drops, the like sprinklers spray out. This was on Halloween also, so a little on thing.
Oh.
You know, but they spray out like chocolate syrup, like fake blood, and then you leave, and you're really sticky, and your hair is matted with like sticky, goopy fake blood. So I don't know if that's necessarily the move, but we are going to get very theatrical. There's going to be a lot of really fun moments in the set, and not to give away too much, but there's definitely an aura of like almost like a church service. Like we're doing sort of like a very like religious theatrical take on the album.
Wow.
Yeah, it'll be really fun. I'm so excited.
I am a big fan of the new music.
Thank you.
It is so wonderful to see you again.
I know, so good to see you. Good to catch up.
Yes, and I can't wait for the live interpretation.
It's gonna be so fun. I'm so excited.
Appreciate the time.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for having us.
Yes.
We appreciate it.
King Mala right here on B-Sides.